Since one of the only things that sticks to silicone is silicone, we don't have to worry about our master sticking to our silicone rubber unless it contains some silicone itself. However, if we are working with a porous material in our mold box like wood, or if we're going to do a two-part mold where silicone will be poured directly onto silicone, we'll want to use something called mold release. Mold release is a material that usually exists in either brush-on or aerosol form. It provides a barrier between two materials that we do not want to adhere to each other. In mold making, there are two main situations where this is important. The first situation is when our mold box or master is an extremely porous material that our silicone may try to mechanically bond to. Although it's different from a mechanical bond can make getting the silicone off of our mold box or master slightly more painful than it needs to be. Using a mold release on these porous materials before pouring our silicone will make this easier. Our second situation is when we're going to pour another section of our mold onto an already cured section of silicone. If we don't thoroughly apply a mold release, then our two silicone halves will bond together, making them impossible to remove from each other. We'll do this anytime we're creating a multi-part mold where our mold is done in two separate sections or more. Now that we know when we'll need a mold release during mold making, it's important that we know what kind of mold release we should use. Although the name may sound universal, not all mold releases are made for the same purpose. For mold making, we'll want a rubber-to-rubber mold release. Rubber-to-rubber mold releases are designed specifically for silicone mold making and will be our go-to during this process. If we don't pay attention and use another mold release that isn't made for silicone-to-silicone situations, we could end up with a chemically bonded silicone. Another type of mold release is used specifically during the casting process, when casting our silicone mold is cured. Adding a casting mold release will add some additional silicone materials to make sure our casting comes out easily. If we used this for silicone to silicone, it would only make our chemical bond stronger, and that's not what we want for mold making. Mold releases can come in aerosol or brush-on form. Either will work effectively as long as you can get thorough coverage. There are many dedicated mold releases on the market that you can purchase, or if you're starting out and want to save those purchases for later, you can use Vaseline as a rubber-to-rubber mold release. It will leave some residue that needs to be cleaned off, but it will work effectively.